Welcome to the Legendarium Green Team. Today we're going to be talking about The State of the Art, the 1989 anthology by Ian M. Banks. This is going to be our third culture book after Player of Games and Consider Phlebas. I'm Kyptan, and joining me today we have Befuddled Panda,
Hello, hello.
Ashaman,
Hi, everybody.
and Dusty Strings.
Howdy.
First, we'll give our opinions on the anthology as a whole and share a couple of our favorites, and then we'll be going into spoiler territory for each of the 8 stories in turn. So, folks, what did you think of the anthology as a whole? How would you rate it, and who would you rec it to?
This wasn't my favorite of the culture things I read. Granted, I've only read 3 things. It's the 3 things that we've recorded, and this is the third we're recording. It was a bit of a mixed bag, and I think it was overall okay. There were a couple stories that I really enjoyed, and then a few that was just like, I'm not quite sure I know what the point is. Who I would rec it to? I would rec it to people who already like the culture universe. And this seems like it's more of just like a nice to have, like an add-on. I don't know if it's really a must read, but you can tell me since you've read more.
Okay. Ash, how do you feel about this?
I'm definitely much more positive on it than I was on Consider Phlebas. I think
That might be a low bar.
Yeah. Not all of the stories in this anthology clicked with me, but there were a couple that I thought were interesting. And the main story, The State of the Art, I think had some interesting stuff to it. This felt very much like an anthology to me. I don't read a lot of anthologies. I tend to only read the really good ones. So that's kind of like an unfavorable comparison because, for example, The Paper Menagerie and Other Stories is a phenomenal short story collection that this one doesn't compete with at all, I don't think. But there's a lot that's good about this, I think. I'll give it a fair rating, like a 6 or maybe a 7. And I would recommend it to, culture fans, but also old-timey sci-fi fans, I think.
Okay.
And perhaps... people who are comfortable with sci-fi, maybe university students who just going around doomering all over everybody.
Dusty.
Yeah, I liked it. Let's see. There's, especially in the main story, The State of the Art, but actually all of them kind of. There's some fun little monologues that I enjoy and I nod my head at and I say, yes, agreed, definitely. You know how Banks likes to get into it about certain things in our world while sometimes navigating around specifically saying it. So yeah, I enjoyed it. It was fun. And most of the stories I enjoyed. I think I had to message. Did I message into this group about Scratch? How I just didn't get it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Scratch.
I consider Scratch a bonus story.
Bonus, sure. Okay.
Story, yes.
What about you, Kip?
Okay.
Yep.
I like a couple of the things in this anthology, but I do think that most of the rest are longer than they need to be, and definitely treading already trodden ground by this point. Maybe there was some interesting and topical and prompt things back when this was published in 1989, but I've been alive many years since then, and things have changed a little bit, and it's fine. The standouts to me are A Gift from the Culture and The State of the Art, with notable mentions for Odd Attachment and Peace.
Huh.
Sorry, not Peace. Cleaning Up.
Cleaning Up.
Oh, I love Cleaning Up. I love that one.
Cleaning Up was good, yeah. A Gift from the Culture is, for me, that was the one I was like, this didn't need to be here.
Oh, I love that one so much.
Interesting.
Why? I want to know why.
We'll get there.
Okay.
So yeah, that's my initial impressions of this book, and I would also rec it to people who have read at least 1 or 2 culture books or are considering getting into the culture. And for people considering getting into the culture, I would very specifically ask them to look at just The State of the Art.
That's fair.
I think that they could read.
I would probably also recommend A Gift to the Culture because I can't stop myself, but that's a bit more specific.
That one's all right, but also, what was the one that was? Oh man, I have the book in front of me. Why don't I just look?
I liked the guy in the suit.
Yeah, the
Descendant?
Descendant.
Yeah.
That one you don't know it's culture though till like the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that one, but I've also read something extremely similar to it before that's escaping my mind.
The one they
Okay.
didn't Love, Death, and Robots. The one that's similar.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what was going through my mind the entire time. I was like, wonder if that one was inspired by this.
Trying to think which one that was. All right.
It's in the most recent season of Love, Death, and Robots.
Okay.
I could see a gift from the culture being adapted in that vein.
I can
Like-
see it being a miniseries.
A
Yeah.
mini series?
Yeah. Like 2
Like
episodes.
4 episodes. Oh, okay. He's going with
Wait,
2.
a gift from the
Like 4.
culture could be a miniseries?
Yeah.
Oh.
That's like
You have like a setup ep and then a denouement ep.
Wow. Did we read the same story?
One episode to like immerse you into the world, and then another episode to see people make decisions that can't be undone.
Okay, I can see it. I can see it now. Yes, I
I
think
can
I can
see
see
that.
exactly the miniseries that would get made. And I would think it's like, I guess I didn't waste my time watching that.
But
Part
they
one,
would have
part
to either change like the setting of it and make it not like a culture thing, or culture would need to become a lot more pervasive in our current society for people to like understand it better.
Nah,
No.
no.
You don't think so?
No.
All right.
Let people think it's not part of anything bigger. Who cares?
All right, fair. I care.
Just have a bunch of unrelated directors make culture series one after another, and then
Yeah.
eventually it'll start to make sense.
Well,
Right.
Bezos was trying to do it.
Who?
Hmm?
Bezos with
Oh.
Amazon Video, and then they were like, "Nah, this isn't gonna work." And he was like, "All right, fine. I'll just go back to my crystal tower."
He's got like $100 billion. Like, what's the opportunity cost?
There
It's
isn't
Musk
one.
who keeps naming things after culture ships. So
That's true.
That's
maybe once he gets a media platform that isn't Twitter.
He releases on X videos. Wait, sorry, that's a different thing.
just
on X
20-second videos
Spaces.
for 50
Yes.
years.
Wow,
Motion
Ash.
pictures.
Wow, Ash.
Yep, unintentional.
I think most of the reason why I was like disappointed with this collection is that I wanted more of the mines and the ships and the like the
Kip,
machines.
we know what we're reading next.
We know we're reading next. Okay.
And I just didn't get enough of it.
You got a general contact unit in
I know, but like in
Save the Art?
the state of the art, it was all a bunch of it from the person, you
Yes.
know?
Mhm.
It gave us some of the mind stuff with like the interactions and the questions that it was asking, and that was good. But like the other stories, a lot of it was like missing.
Well,
Okay.
you could argue that the suit in Descendant is kind of a mind.
Yeah,
like
kind
a
of.
really,
Yeah.
really
I
old
would
and
never
outdated one.
argue that it was a mind with an M.
Yeah, that's fair. It's an AI so far beyond what we have currently that I would, yeah.
That is true. That one was a bit surprising.
It's sentimental, so it has to have. It's definitely like loads above what we have. But
Mhm.
again, if we're comparing to like the way they explain the mines and consider Phlebas with an entire world of office spaces and stuff, it's not even comparable to them. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yep.
I find it absolutely hilarious that whenever there's like culture technology in these books, it's always emphasized this like, oh, this is like 700,000 generations old, and most of it's been stripped away and deactivated, and it's still like the most obscenely powerful piece of technology we've ever seen.
Yeah.
Because once you're at matter manipulation stages, if you have the latest tech, you just solve the plot before it happens.
Mhm.
Yeah, I very much like the gift from the culture and its portability and civilian use.
Hmm.
You mean the gun?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask.
But it wasn't designed for war. It was
It's true, it wasn't.
it specifically calls itself out and says like this is like a low-powered model not designed for warfare and like
a recreational rifle.
Yeah.
Or pistol, I think it is.
Yeah,
right?
it's a pistol.
So is
For when
the
you-
spin on it that it's people who made it a weapon.
A bit. We'll get into specific talk, but I think
Okay.
that it's become clear that we all have things to talk about in these books and in these
Mhm.
stories. And let's get into it with probably one of our least favorites. Okay, spoiler talk is going to start now. For those of you who are enlightened, like Little Red Book, keep listening. For those of you who care about the ends of these little short stories in the state of the art, drop out. Have fun. Okay, so let's start off with Road of Skulls, about a carriage following along a roadbed made from the enemies of a distant retreating city.
I love that.
It's a fun image, and
It is.
I'm glad that it was as short as it was.
I think
Yeah.
it could have been shorter. I think it'd be like 1 page.
It probably could have been, but I don't know. Just having just a little bit more help with that, like that bang. Like, oh, okay, this is just a metaphor turned real. So
I did like the section where they were going over extra large skulls, and it was upsetting things.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
other than that, it's just one image of like a little carriage with some people in it at a low tech scale going towards a distant and retreating city on the horizon.
Yeah. It kind of felt like it was set up as like the frame narrative for the entire anthology, but I guess that was subverted at the end. And then I guess the twist is that the city is moving away from them as fast as they're moving towards it. So they're just gonna be driving along this road of skulls forever. I guess that's metaphorically resonant. I'm left with a kind of all right.
Big metaphorical resonance for the persistence of empires, religions, pilgrimages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Genocide.
It's all about the journey, as they say.
I don't think I'm smart enough for this story.
I felt that way about Scratch. I was like,
that's me too. I didn't get it. Yeah.
I'm smart enough for Scratch either. It's fine.
I was doing a really big brain thing with that one.
Was he?
I don't
Junk
know. I think he was.
Junk and Junk Mad, Junk Dan, Junk and Jugas.
I think it was his attempt to have the culture bots or whatever do found poetry. That's what it seemed like.
If we're just talking about Scratch, we can talk about Scratch. Right?
Let's talk about Scratch. Okay, let's give up on order.
Yeah.
Yes.
A little part of Kip dies. To me, it kind of felt like E.M. Banks was like, I should really reference Ulysses at some point in my career. And so he just did with Scratch a little bit. And then made it less understandable.
I do think it was definitely the most experimental piece in the book. That's not really debatable. But yeah, free consciousness, little fragments leading up to an apocalypse.
Yep.
But is that what happens in the end?
I guess like showing the banality of the existence before apocalypse.
Yeah.
That's something.
Yeah.
That could have been like 1 page, but
it tries to get like a gestalt of the run up to apocalypse. And
what? There's an apocalypse? I think I stopped reading it. I think I just gave up. What? It just says EMP, SSS, the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, EMP, electromagnetic pulse, is the.
Is that what that means? Yeah, but that doesn't necessarily mean apocalypse.
Produce electromagnetic pulses when they explode.
Yeah. Oh, so that's what he's trying to go for.
Oh yeah, arming sequence.
Oh, it says arming sequence.
Yeah. So right before the blast, there's an EMP wave, and that knocks out electronics, and then there's the actual blast, which obviously kills everyone.
Yeah. And the EMPs
part is the actual blast.
That's static.
Yeah, it's the static that this piece kind of suggests is everything between the Big Bang and the Big Crunch is just static of the universe moving randomly.
Yeah.
And it's us who give meaning to it, even if it's not necessarily there.
Okay. All right. Big brain piece.
The history of the universe in 3 words. Sick. The history of the universe. Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3, the end.
I guess.
Yeah, okay, I see it.
It's informative of Banks's stance on the end of the universe. Yeah, he's not going for the big freeze. He's not going for the big rip. He's going for the big crunch.
Well, he wrote this during the Cold War, yeah? Right?
1989? Wasn't that the end of the Cold War?
I mean, so it's towards the end.
Technically, Soviet Union doesn't fall apart till 91.
Yeah.
89 is when the collection was published. Some of it predated that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Throughout
Gotcha.
these stories, I did get a sense that the Cold War was a backdrop for what he's writing about.
Scratch was originally published in 1987.
Okay.
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 But yeah, the Cold War was definitely high in the mind of this book. It comes up a couple times.
When
Mhm.
was Chernobyl?
Oh, I should know.
Because it
85.
references Chernobyl here.
Oh, it
obviously.
does, yeah.
Challenger
86.
bombs Chernobyl with laser
It
guided
was
haze.
86. It was 86. Okay.
Okay, there we go.
April 15th. Was it? Am I right?
26th.
26th. Dang it. All right.
But yeah, Scratch has. It's a fun technique to get at a gestalt of banality of humans, as Ash said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that all of the things that us humans do on this earth really matter between the Big
No.
Bang and the Big Crunch?
They matter to each individual or to people in their lives.
Oh man, I feel like I get in arguments about this all the time. I definitely did yesterday
Uh,
with some other members of the server. Yeah, I mean this is axiology, right? My stance on this is meaning is an absurd concept, and humans seek it anyways. That's absurdism
Wow.
for you. Yeah.
More or less absurd than Scratch.
More. Yes.
Okay, cool.
Scratch is definitely less absurd than consciousness.
Cool. Are we good with
It's-
Scratch?
Because
Okay,
Scratch is
yep.
commentary on it, which is why it's less absurd.
Agreed.
Oh, that's why? Okay. All right.
The
I
map is not the territory.
Yeah.
I promise I'm following.
Okay, I think what I had hoped is, like, coming into this discussion, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to say. I wasn't a huge fan of this, but I was hoping that through talking it with you guys, I would appreciate it more. And I think it's working.
It usually
Oh, good.
does.
Good.
Yeah. I think, and if anything, I mean, I'm going to talk about reference melasm because it's the most recent big thing in my mind that's
yeah.
like similar. Culture is definitely something that I think just reading it by yourself is not as impactful or enjoyable. It's the being able to talk about it with others.
How do you think your experience with internet message boards and other forms of online communication have affected how you appreciated Scratch, or how novel all of those words jammed together was for you?
You mean Scratch is internet message boards?
I mean, I think they have some similarities, yes.
Huh.
This is why I deleted a
I
lot of those
didn't
apps.
think about it until now.
Some of Scratch does seem to be audio to me,
Yeah.
Mm.
but like tuning to different radio stations.
Yeah.
That's what it reminded me of most.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I
Mm.
think the internet message boards comparison is an apt one.
Okay.
Jesse, you had something?
Oh no, I read The Culture alone
Yeah.
with no one to talk about. I loved it.
I'm not saying that you won't love it. It's just you get more out of it when you're
Mhm.
able to talk to someone. And I remember when you were reading it, you're like, Panda, you should read this so I can
Yeah,
talk
that's
to
fair.
somebody about it.
Like a lot of good books.
It was a catharsis for me. I feel like I was reading this in 2015, 2016. So for me, it was like, yes, please society go this way and not the other way. So it was nice for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, culture, the stories themselves, I think, are largely good, but the discussions you can have based around them are better.
True.
Agreed.
Hey, and within Scratch, there's a nice little commentary on the discovery and utility of junk DNA. So hey,
Yeah.
something for the biologists.
Is junk DNA still a concept, or is it?
Junk DNA is still a concept, but it's a much, much smaller concept than it used to be.
Okay.
And now you would almost never say junk DNA unless you're talking to high schoolers or below.
That's where I heard it.
What is junk DNA?
It's the DNA in the genome that supposedly has no purpose and is just like
Filler.
leftover.
Oh, like vestigial organs, but like even more vestigial.
Yeah, basically. And
Okay.
to be fair to the proponents of the idea of junk DNA, a lot of it does seem to be leftover copies of viruses that once infected our genome and now are defunct and no more.
Mm.
Okay.
Like
Cool.
there's certain viruses that you can basically map the genome and chromosomes by how frequently these viruses appear in them, or dead copies of them appear in them. But nowadays we call it non-coding DNA, and it seems to be much more important to actual genetic function than the 90s might have led us to believe.
No.
Cool. Yeah, wasn't that like a debate in evolution for a while? I was like, oh, how could I don't know.
Like I think like
This is
something
so
like
inefficient.
30% of colon cancer is from non-coding DNA mutations.
Huh.
That's
Right.
really high.
Thanks.
That's very interesting.
Non-coding
Well,
DNA.
it turns out that the non-coding DNA has like a whole bunch of functions that are just not making protein,
Mm.
All right.
like activating and repressing other sections of DNA. A lot of the
Wait.
regulation stuff was previously called junk.
Mm.
How is it possible that we've spent so much time on this story that I didn't even finish reading?
Wait until we get to
I'm
the
like looking at
actual
it now.
stories.
Wow, jeez.
I liked how the little like codons in that paragraph of Scratch were constantly getting changed and mutated
Right.
as the paragraph continued. That was fun.
My
I don't know how
gosh.
deep it was, but it was fun.
I wasn't smart
Mhm.
enough for this one, definitely.
That's why talking about it is helpful.
Yeah. I was reading it like half an hour ago. No, not half. Like 45 minutes ago. And I was like, oh, I got to finish this short story collection before we start recording. I'm not going to think about this too hard.
Oh, wow.
Well, Ash, since you brought us to Scratch, do you have another story that you would like to segue us to?
Why, yes,
Yes.
Kip, I do. I would like to go from the start, the next one in the chronology. That's my fondest wish, I think, at the moment.
Cool.
As a gift from the
cool.
cultures next.
That
Oh,
is
how about that?
correct. Who wants to talk about our favorite gay arsonist or terrorist? What do we want to call him?
Yeah, I think it's fine. Gay arsonist.
Okay.
Is there?
Arsonist.
I don't know. Maybe there's like a subculture. No.
Is it arson if you use plasma weapons?
I think there's fire is a plasma, right?
I guess so. Like a Molotov
Oh,
cocktail
I don't know enough
times
about the physics of
55.
fire for that. So to get my negative thoughts out of the way before you give your positive thoughts, Kit, this is another example of just a culture story where the protagonist is making some, in my mind, some obviously horrible decisions, and some decisions that I
What do you
cannot.
think was the first one?
The first
Running away from the culture?
Yes.
What?
What was the first bad decision that this protagonist made? Was it running away from the culture?
That's more defensible, I think. All the points where he was not going back to the culture at all, even for like some assistance, and decides to just kind of murder a whole ship full of innocent people rather than accept the quote humiliation of it being coerced into something. That's kind of an act that I just like, oh man, I cannot get behind or empathize with at all. And I think you're kind of stupid for making this decision. So if there's no redeeming qualities for a protagonist, and the protagonist is all that's in the story, I have a very difficult time liking the story.
They're not the only person in the story. There's some other criminals in there.
There are props in the story.
There's an exotic dancer.
And his boyfriend, right?
Yeah.
Who is just kind of like a generically nice person.
And was he?
I
Was
don't
he a
know.
generically nice
I'd say it was
person?
nice, yeah.
I'm fine deferring to you saying that he's not a nice person.
He was
because
generically nice with the backdrop of a capitalist society where they're like, I'm finally going to make it, and so I don't care about other human emotions.
Yeah. Those are essentially my thoughts. Go ahead and apologize for this, please.
Wait, I think the protagonists did have redeeming qualities in that they were the glove for the culture to use.
Ooh, conspiracy hat on. Okay, let's go. Speak on.
I mean, that's what it is, right? In my mind, like, okay, so this not warfare gun shows up, and only one person on this planet could use it, and that person just happens to be this person who's wildly in debt in this horrible society, and they need to blow up this ship full of important people. If that doesn't scream culture, I'm not sure what does.
And they only told one person that they were culture, and they think that person would never tell.
Yeah.
I think that conspiracy theory, tinfoil hat theories are something that Banks had in mind when he wrote all the culture books.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so finding them and at least talking about them or addressing them is necessary.
Mm.
I think it's very point. Yeah.
So in this one, I do think you have to imagine, is this a special circumstances op? And how long ago did they plan it?
Yeah, I did think about that when I was reading it. I was like, it seemed too well placed, this person and the weapon and just the circumstances. And it didn't,
And even plausible deniability for the culture because there's an
yeah,
ambassador on board that might be
exactly.
killed.
Yep.
Because the culture wouldn't outwardly do something like this. And we don't get enough information about, like, what is going on in the culture that would warrant this kind of event to happen. But I guess that's where the question mark is.
I mean, clearly this planet is a less advanced form of
Yes.
society.
Hmm.
And so
Yes.
needs to be changed.
There needs to be a reason for them to come in.
But we
Just
don't
the
see that.
belief that they would make things better.
Yeah.
So, okay, I guess in this situation, this would be contrasted against the situation in the state of the art where they're kind of comically reluctant to intervene.
Yeah.
They were using Earth as a control.
Control, yeah. Maybe this is not a
Thanks.
control. It's possible. Yeah, I see the theory. I don't think I really buy it.
Okay.
Maybe this
I
is just
do.
me contrasting it
Why do you
against.
reject it?
Huh?
Yeah,
Why
why
do you reject it?
reject
So,
it?
in Consider
Yeah.
Phlebas, the handling of Horza, like the dumbest guy in the universe, by the culture was comically bad, I think.
Was it?
I think so.
I think it was okay.
You don't think that was a happy resolution at the end for the
The
culture?
op almost failed, right? it relied on like some radically unlikely things happening to save it at the end, I would say.
This one is like much more predictable.
This one is much more predictable. That's right. Ah,
And also think about the title of this story.
I haven't seen a side of the culture where they're willing to be this Machiavellian. Maybe this comes out in later books, but thus far I haven't seen it.
In Player of Games, they
Yeah.
torched the society and it led to riots and all kinds of things. Like, that's pretty Machiavellian in a way. I understand that they'd worked their way up to that, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. But what happened there was they just introduced a guy who was good at playing board games, and it caused their entire culture to which I think is a different act than engineering a crisis like this.
Why can't they have different flavors?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure, I would say that this is
They're
a
not a
different
one-trick pony.
scale of Machiavellian. Absolutely.
I mean, a different scale. It's just one planet.
But is it? Because I thought that they were coming back from some glorious empire
No,
victory.
it is an empire, but this is just one ship in one city. Hey, come on.
That's
Play
okay, I see
anything
what
to
you
the
mean.
culture.
Yeah.
I buy this theory.
If I see an event kind of like this in a later culture book, I'd be more willing to accept it.
Okay.
But even other stuff, like, they're pretty intense about making sure that their state secrets don't get out. I mean, even in Player of Games, they were talking about how, like, if Gurga died or he got captured, they were going to whisk him out because they didn't want them to see what his reproductive organs looked like.
Yeah.
So I imagine reproductive organs versus this non-military plasma weapon that can blow up spaceships. Like, that seems like something that they wouldn't let out easily.
But we have several, like, what's her face? The furry.
But it would self-destruct if not handled by a culture citizen.
Yeah.
Like Gurga's
Yeah.
organs don't have a self-destruct. This gun does.
And they were willing to just kind of like send off a shuttle and consider Phlebas to maybe get ransacked by natives and later get commandeered by Horza, the most incompetent man in the galaxy.
Yeah, but that was an X-culture orbital. The thoughts of technological secrets there are a little bit more lax.
Maybe.
I think the most convincing piece is that the culture wants to intervene in this planet, but they need a good excuse to. And that's why it's called a gift from the culture.
Yeah.
Do they need I don't know.
I think they just need a projection. They just need to think that they're going to be doing more good than harm and they will come
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
A Casus
This,
Belli
this
of
contrasts so strongly with the state of the art, though.
I don't think it does, though.
I don't think it does, because how else do you make good predictions and projections if you don't have a
with
control group?
controls. Right. Sure.
But why do we have to
So
be the
we're
control?
just counting on this to be the one where they're okay. We're just going to intervene in a really extreme way right now, and then this will inform our statistics.
You hope that you don't need as many control groups to like make your experimental group a tiny fraction of the universe.
I suppose.
Is it that in the state of the art they also say that the humans were going to like destroy themselves anyway?
They said it was likely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sad.
So I think in that story it was very, aside from Scratch, it was like way more overt about the Cold War being the backdrop with the nuclear arms race.
Though we do have the anthropologist who went native and decided that he wanted to stay there.
Yes.
No, let's talk about state of the art when we talk about the state of the art. We can't talk about it now.
Let's jump to it.
Let's jump to it. Let's directly contrast
jump
a
to
gift
it?
from the culture
Okay,
and state of
sure.
the art.
Sure.
Because
Yeah.
you clearly want to.
No, I don't want to. Okay. The state of the art shows a side to the culture where they're like almost comically willing to let people do as they please so long as they're not hurting anyone else, right? Just hurting themselves. I didn't like Linter very much. I guess I appreciated his role in the story, but yes,
Yeah.
it did seem like what he was doing was a form of self-mutilation, and
He seemed quite illogical.
he seemed, like the reasons he was giving for preferring life on Earth. First of all, I think that they have holes in them, and second of all, I think that he's able to give them largely because he's mostly in a privileged position in the first place. So like he gives the
agree with
story about like, oh, if you see a pretty girl in India, then it's so amazing that someone so precious is able to flower in such a horrible place. And then you think about how she's gonna get old and die soon. I mean, like, it's such a weird.
Yeah, it's almost fetishization of humans.
Yes.
is.
And
Yeah.
it's funny because these are a lot of the arguments that people make for like what gives life meaning in the first place.
Yep.
Maybe Banks was just pointing out how monstrous this seems from an outsider perspective. In which case, good job, Banks. I was never going to disagree with you there, but it was an interesting medley of characters in this one, I think, that made it more compelling to me than the gift from the culture.
Do you think that Earth should be left as a control group?
No, I'm fully on the side of the SMA in this.
Yeah.
Intervene, make people's lives better, and it was a very Eurocentric story, I think, to its detriment.
Yeah.
Mm.
There was mention of like how horrible a lot of the events of the 20th century were. Like there was a Holocaust section, of course, and there was lip service paid to other places on the globe. But I think that these high-minded rationalizations that the ship is giving for not intervening kind of fall flat when you look into the eyes of a starving child, right?
I mean, you were the one just arguing for non-intervention on
No,
from the culture.
I think that the culture should intervene in maybe like in all of their worlds.
Okay.
Yeah.
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 Well,
I'm pro-intervention.
self-determination.
No, screw that.
That's horrible.
Self-determination by who? By the wealthy elites on whatever planet happen to be there, while the oppressed underclasses kind of
look.
have to
We just haven't read the Utopia book yet, right?
Yeah.
where the native population lives in a land of happiness and plenty and no technology, and the culture
Is
has to
there one?
intervene. No, there is not.
That was considered Phlebas, the people that were eating each other.
Oh god.
Yeah, that was that. There you go.
The counterpoint to your point here, though, is actually the culture book Look to Windward.
Excellent.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes, I can see that there are ways that this could go wrong, but I think the case is made so strongly, so well by SMA that I don't buy the ship's arguments, I'll say.
Okay.
And mixed shout out to the crewmate Lee,
Mm.
who had a good speech at the end. That was like the climax of the story for me, I think.
Really? Okay.
The one that was trying to get elected?
Yeah.
Yes.
Ship captain.
Yeah. Wasn't his final thing basically just like wipe out all life on Earth and then it'll be better for them?
Yeah,
He
we
had
inject
some
a micro black
wild
hole
idea.
into the Earth's core, and then
That's what it was.
a little while
Yeah.
later, they're just going to be like a little grape floating. The ship said it would be very elegant. Yeah,
Yes.
I can see that argument. I sympathize with it more than I sympathize with Linter.
Yes. Yeah. But we're all living in this society, and Linter's coming to us and saying these things are great. And I'm like, shut up! I have anxiety and depression. Go back to where you don't have that. So there's
Right?
How did you like the drone narrator of the state of the art, Scaffin Amtiska?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I like that. I want more of that.
Yes, I liked how many layers there were to this story. It was a small relating her memories, but also the memories from her memory bank of a time where she wasn't fully present, so has had to reconstruct conversations. So it's layered twice through that. She has to go to the ship for recorded conversations sometimes. And then it's a letter to someone who wants to write a story, like an anthropologist of Earth who wants to write a story about this, translated into English by a drone.
Yes.
I always forget
That's some
this.
narrative
Yep.
depth right there.
Who gave the
Yeah.
chapter titles names of
Mhm.
general contact units.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
issues with translation were often pointed out. Which I
Yes.
quite
Yep.
liked.
Oh yeah.
That gave it the
Verisimilitude.
that word. Yes.
I quite liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun.
Shout out to the point in the story where they're literally eating the rich and powerful. Quite
Oh
liked
my
that.
god, that was so
Oh.
bizarre.
That was so cool.
It's like, oh, we just took little bits that they weren't gonna miss, and we just grew the rest from it.
Like Pinochet and what else? Who else was there? So
And
many people.
Nixon.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That was weird but cool. That's what I want from my culture books.
Right?
Yep.
Little bits of technology taken to ridiculous luxury extremes.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like considered for Liebes kind of gross, but it did give me the cringe.
It gave me very let's all have the flu vibes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I just want to see what it's like.
See, and like these kind of things, like I get, right? Like they're sampling it a little bit without trying to like completely immerse themselves and then forget about everything that they had before. Like that's fun.
Yeah.
But it does give you the idea of this standard culture citizen kind of just like floating through life and not being too deeply affected by anything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But then that circles back around to that argument of like, see, their pain and suffering make them appreciate life and give it meaning. So,
Yeah.
right?
Nothing is more meaningful than getting stabbed in a dark alley by some teenagers.
I did
I
not
don't
like
know
how
about
that
you.
ended.
But like, I would not move to a homophobic planet.
Right?
Is that just me?
This is part of my criticism of
I'm with
Linter. Like
you.
he's like, I'm going native, but he's doing so in like the most privileged possible way. Even when he's going for like
Yeah.
the body modifications and he has
It's
a job.
Like I'd prefer to be a woman, but I wouldn't do it in this society.
Yeah, and
Yep.
and like
Thanks.
the locations he was in, Paris, Oslo, and New York City, they're all like okay, maybe not New York. I mean, a lot of people think so. They're not like the pinnacle. They're basically at the pinnacle of human comfort standards in our world, right?
Yeah.
Like he's not moving to
For some people.
Like, for some people, he's not
Kathmandu.
moving to like a failed state in Africa.
No.
Right?
Or Kabul.
And he can get
Kabul,
whatever
okay.
car he wants.
Yeah. So like this is tourism. This is like I don't know. It feels like extended
tourism.
and fetishization. Yeah.
Because he's not interfering. He's just gathering data, and maybe one day his experiences will be useful to the culture, and maybe not. Who knows?
Yeah.
Will he be happy?
Will he be happy? I guess. I don't know.
He doesn't seem particularly happy.
He seemed unhinged.
Yeah.
He seemed
Like
dead.
he's going through all of the stages, it seems. And of course, at the end, he finds God, and that's an interesting thing for someone from the culture, I think.
Yeah. To find a god that is not just like a sublimed entity of some kind, I think that's a pretty unusual thing for a culture citizen.
Like it's
I think so.
specifically the Roman Catholic God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Worship in the culture universe generally has more proof.
Yeah. And I guess he was willing to abandon that, which, Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah, that's fine.
But yeah, an odd decision from given his culture, cultural upbringing.
Speaking of religion and God, I'd like to briefly touch on, but not really talk too much about, peace.
Peace. Yeah.
Which I just want to straight up mention that anything that I or we say about this is not meant to belittle real disasters.
Yeah.
Because this is based on the Lockerbie bombing.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Hold up.
Yes, this felt very
Oh.
early 2000s atheist to me.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was written before that.
I think a lot of the arguments in this have been made many, many times.
Yeah.
We won't be necessarily adding too much for it.
Yes, I agree. I generally mostly kind of agree with these, but I don't really have much to say about them.
I really don't like the sensation of being in forced conversation with someone who you fundamentally disagree with on an international flight.
Ooh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think it captures that fairly well. That's not the only thing it was trying to capture, but
it captures a very, a very specific kind of experience at a fairly specific kind of time, I think.
Yeah.
Because he mentions Salman Rushdie's The Satanic Verses, which was, I think, published around that time and received huge blowback.
Mm-hmm.
And so this felt like Banks trying to comment on that a bit and saying that the blowback is deranged, which...
But also saying that the people who are just like putting forward the Satanic Verses don't necessarily understand the amount of heat and fervor that is attached with the people who are willing to take violent action to achieve their ideological ends.
Yeah, who almost certainly haven't read the Satanic Verses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it felt bizarre reading this year because I think it was this year that Salman Rushdie was actually attacked and hospitalized and he lost an eye.
Was it this year?
It was either this year or last year.
It was very recent.
I thought it was last year, but this year's taken forever, so.
Yeah, it's possible. I don't exactly remember. It was just like, whoa. This is like that particular thing has not gone away.
Yep.
Yeah.
We actually got assigned a Salman Rushdie book back in high school. Not the Satanic Verses. Haroon in the Sea of Stories, a lovely little children's book.
Should read him at some point.
Definitely about dogmatism. And imagination. It's cute. So yeah, did we have anything more to say about peace, or can we leave that behind?
This is funny.
I guess I should say the very abrupt juxtaposition of going from diary to, oh, this was a piece recovered at this location.
Yeah.
In this area.
Yeah.
It felt it felt jarring in, I think, a good way that enhanced the story.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep. I like little stories that pretend to be recovered media or recovered documents. I'm generally a fan of those.
Big Blair Witch Project fan.
Yeah. No, never actually seen that one. But Dracula, right?
Oh, I still haven't read that.
Yes, the book Dracula. Yes.
Yeah.
I was thinking, like, what other movies have done that? Oh no. Yes, Dracula's a good book.
We've done Scratch. We've done Peace. Done State of the Art. Cleaning Up.
Yeah.
My favorite moment from Cleaning Up is the general who tries to dangle himself on a rope outside the window.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my god.
What did other people think of this story? Panda.
Cleaning Up gave me some Douglas Adams vibes
Okay.
when I was reading it. I did have a comment though, because they were saying like, wasn't it like tons of like alien artifacts that got dumped on the planet? And then I was like, wouldn't that like...
At the very least dozens. Many dozens. Yeah.
Okay. Oh wait. Okay, never mind. Nope. Ignore that. I got nothing.
Okay.
This is obviously heavily political.
Yes.
Yeah, very.
Another Cold War era one. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh man, is it just left behind the Cold War? I don't know.
Did the Cold War end?
Yes, the Cold War end. A Doctor Strangelove kind of story in a lot of ways. I think that's probably his. Yeah, that's
absolutely
what reminded me the most. Yeah, like a lot of Banks's political commentary, I'm like, yeah, that's fair, Banks. You're kind of exactly right here.
Yeah, but it was also like it was like kind of roadside picnicky in that you have like this advanced species that isn't really paying attention to the fact that this stuff is just showing up here and like it's fine, it's mostly garbage. So
cargo culty kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
Specifically dropped cargo cult.
Yeah.
They said that word.
Yeah, that was great. And then we don't know how any of it works, so we play with it anyways.
Yeah, don't worry. We're not going to worship the machines. We're just going to use them to ship nukes around the world.
Yeah, we could do so many things with this awesome technology. You know what we're going to do? We're going to use it to bomb the Russians.
Turns out radiation's not good for that particular machine.
Turns out.
Yeah.
But
it's okay. They had alternative technologies ready in the wings.
Oh man. Yeah, it's so bleak, but like
New brick making for the East Coast.
Oh god.
New method of toilet that will spare the amount of water you no longer have.
wasn't that the original the guy's original idea that he was trying to pitch to the CEO? Like
yes.
a toilet? Yeah.
Well, a bunch of technologies designed for third world and developing countries.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this is a really good initiative.
Yeah.
Oh, boy, is it not getting any funding.
And the idea was to make it non-profit.
Oh, yeah.
To have no profit in the cost. And the dude was like, what? He was like, yeah, we agreed at the last shareholder meeting. He doesn't care.
The endless waiting room. That's a good one.
I really like the endless waiting room.
Yeah, me too.
The outer room.
Yeah, all waiting for this guy who let's not say he's using his time wisely or profitably even.
It's about the primacy of industrialists and inventors. Investors.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Paired well with my watch through of Succession.
Oh dear.
I wonder what would be the case if this book was published now and Ian M. Banks could respond to Elon Musk's drones and barges being named after his creations.
Oh my gosh.
I think that like the story itself would remain exactly the same. Maybe with like some jabs, but nothing has changed. That's my opinion.
There might be a slightly less inchoate name for the Alternative Resources Program or whatever it was called.
Yeah. Alternative Resources Project.
Maybe something snappier. Maybe the CEO at the end would come up with a new name for it.
The Y program. The Y department.
Model Y. Yep.
Yeah.
Or it would be the acronym would be like AWS or something.
That'd be fun.
Alternative resources.
Oh,
that's good.
I enjoyed that one because it was so humorous and it was like the commentary was more obvious.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to me, it wasn't as controversial, but
no.
Yeah, fair.
There's a whole subgenre of short fiction in this like Cold War era where it all ends with nuclear apocalypse.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, short story over, time for the bomb.
Yep.
There's two of them in this book.
There are two.
Given like human tendencies, I think that's the more probable outcome.
Okay.
Maybe that's just a really bleak view on humanity, but
defensible.
I'm really glad that we haven't gotten there, but it does feel like we're getting closer.
Well, like 3 or 4 times during the Cold War, we have like recorded events where like if the people involved had followed procedures, there would have been missiles launched.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just like every time like 1 or 2 maybe stood up and was like, I'm not going to do this.
I think there's more like 4
I'm not going to do this based on this system that I know hasn't gotten repaired.
Yeah.
And then in some cases it was because of like really ridiculous, like there was a joke we used to make that Yeltsin was sober one time when the nuclear football came out instead of drunk, and so we narrowly avoided dying because he didn't have any vodka that day.
Good for us.
The Cuban Missile Crisis one was, there was a ship that was given the order to launch, I think it was, and the 2 captains that normally would be required to give the authorization both said yes. But there was a third guy who happened to be on board that day who was like, no, we're not doing this.
Yeah.
And there was that nuke that got dropped over like North Carolina or something.
It just didn't explode, yeah.
Just didn't explode.
It didn't blow up.
They did find one of them with 3 out of the 4 arming devices armed.
Yeah.
When they finally dug it out of the ground.
And there's also an instance in Colorado where the system got breached. They thought somebody's trying to get a nuclear facility, and it was a bear climbing over the fence. There's just so many. It just goes forever. So
yeah, it's too close.
Oh, just mildly horrifying.
But some of
funny.
those moments are kind of nice because it does show that humans at the end of the day, like we still are like, we really don't want to do this horrifying thing. We're just gonna like push it off as far as we can. So it's
Good soldiers
kinda
sometimes
nice.
do not follow orders.
Let's
Yes.
talk about the other funny story that involved the death of a human. Let's
Pendant?
talk. No,
No,
odd
odd attachment.
attachment.
Odd
Yeah.
attachment.
Oh, that was a human.
Yeah, yeah. Who had an odd attachment when fully disrobed.
I get it. Okay.
The final bit
Oh.
of the she loves me not was the dude's dick.
Yeah.
I thought it was his
She loves
head,
me.
like this one. That now I get it.
No, the thing that was being plucked was a person, one appendage at a time.
Wait,
That's
really?
Yep.
That's really funny.
And they were inside an environment suit, and like that came off, and the plant was able to discover that there was a male. And look, one more attachment. She loves me. One more appendage. This one's odd, but it counts.
I definitely did not understand that when I read this story.
I didn't either. I didn't connect to that.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
a plant monster.
It's a plant monster who's struggling to make sense of what's in front of him when a human ship lands and tries to make first contact.
And mourning a romantic rejection.
Yes. But gearing himself up to try again.
Yeah.
And missing first contact opportunity.
Completely mistook what was the intelligent part of the landing party and what was not.
Ah.
Okay, I think I need to reread this one.
It thought the human was a seedlet.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
I guess it didn't believe that anything that small could possibly be sentient.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Mm.
It was like herding some cows or something.
Grazers.
Yeah.
Yep.
The outer covering looked at them and wondered, took hold of one of the little pink filaments and pulled.
Yeah.
Oh, it came off with a faint pop. Another muffled sounding noise came from the silvery top of the creature. This is a horror story.
Yes,
Yeah,
it
it's
is.
a horror story from the monster's
Yes.
perspective. And the monster doesn't
Terrifying.
understand. It's so funny.
Oh.
Like, this is actually really clever, I think.
Wow.
And it thought that the landing craft was a seed pod.
Right.
This is a little seed that came out of seed pod, and then it shot at him. So that's
I
not
was
nice.
very sad about one of the little grazer cubs exploding.
Yeah.
Something clicked. The cubs had exploded.
Yeah. And the fropome,
Yeah.
whatever it's called, it didn't care.
Nah, great grazers are stupid. Who cares?
Yeah.
There's so
Were
many
the
of them.
grazers like humans at one point?
I don't think
I
so.
remember thinking that, but
Why did the cub's head explode?
because the gun, it shot itself with a gun.
Yeah, it had a burner.
It tried to pick up the gun with its mouth.
Yeah.
So
The growling grazer cub hefted the burner device into its mouth.
yeah.
Like, it has like appendages. So the reason I was thinking that was because, like the gun from the culture, maybe it like had like a DNA identification thing as like, oh, this hello master, and then it was able to fire
The
off.
page before that, it says the first cub growled and started trying to pick up the burner with its mouth.
Right, but then it hefted it into its mouth.
Yeah, I think using its mouth.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Something clicked. The cub's head exploded.
Thank
Okay,
heavens
all
the
right.
thing was odd after all. Oh, happy day. Pop, she loves me.
Yeah, that ending.
But that part, but it wouldn't be odd.
Yeah, it would. 2 legs, 2 arms, and then
A funny
Well, what about
extra leg.
that's what I thought it was their head. Was the head? You pull the top off.
nope. No, it recognizes a head. Knows what a head is.
Yeah.
If it knows what a head is,
Just
why
where
did it
the
pull this
roots
thing
met.
apart?
That's the game it plays when trying to figure out if its intended loves it or not.
Yeah. You take a flower, you pluck the petals off.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, he loves me not. He loves me not.
It's just a reversal of what we do to flowers.
Yeah.
I know,
Yeah.
but I would have pulled the head off too, and that would have been
So,
I mean,
even.
technically it did, just the
It
other
has
one.
some understanding of mammalian anatomy.
yes, so the part where it gets unambiguous is it says up there just where the roots met. So
Yeah.
the roots for it are the legs of the
Ah.
human.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, the human is walking along funny little roots, kind of stubby.
See, this is why I have to talk about these with you, because
Yeah,
now
that
I
makes
have a
sense.
better appreciation of this story that is very odd.
And the root only appeared when, in his rage for a poem, ripped the silvery covering right off the lower half of the leaking, weakly struggling seedlet.
Yeah,
And importantly, this story is actually quite short.
It is quite
it
short.
is.
Yeah.
It does require close reading.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. You want to talk about another dead human?
Yeah,
Yes.
let's talk about
Yeah,
another dead
Descendant.
human.
Descendant. I think that's the last one.
Yep,
Yeah.
it is.
Mhm.
And this one could totally have been written by Alistair Reynolds, and I would have believed it until the
Yeah, I
very
could see
end
that
part
too.
where the drone pops up.
The internal journey of the human in the suit is quite interesting, I thought.
I agree.
Yeah.
And I wonder, like, how much of that was human and how much of
Yeah.
it was
Just the
AI?
suit.
That was
Yeah.
the question I had at the end. I was like, okay, now I don't think that any of it was actually the human, and it was the AI like simulating, like talking back to itself as if the human were still alive.
I think that's a defensible rating.
I liked one of the quotes that the human character thought to himself after some amount of time.
Oh god, I
Maybe
hope you have
I'm.
mine. I
Yeah,
hope we had the same thing highlighted.
we probably do. We probably have similar experiences here. Maybe I'm the artificial one, not the suit, which doesn't try to pretend. People have said I'm cold, which hurt me, which still hurts me. All I can do is feel what I can and tell myself it's all anyone can ask of me.
Okay, not the same thing.
Not the same
What,
one? Okay.
what I had highlighted was we created something a little closer to perfection than ourselves. Maybe that's the only way to progress. Let them try to do the same. I doubt they can, so they will always be less as well as more than us. Got to say, I don't really hold much. I don't think that theory holds much water, and I don't think Banks intends it to.
Mhm.
I agree.
Did you get the Martian vibes while you were reading this?
Oh, no,
No.
because I read it way before The Martian.
Okay. Well, I read it
Mm.
after, obviously. So I was just thinking of whatever Watney.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
liked
You
Mark
were the
Watney.
person. Yeah.
I didn't like the person in this suit.
No.
There was a pretty horrible pun in the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where?
At one point, the human is journeying and gets quite tired, and then sits down and then says, I am suitably depressed.
Oh.
I think
That's
that's a
awesome.
perfectly fine pun.
That's a fine pun.
That is
Yeah, it's
fantastic.
horrible. That's what I said.
I like that there was a little sing-song moment in this as well. It's
Yes.
just so like that twist at the end. It does make you want to go back and read it in that different light.
I hate fevers, but I love fever dreams, and this was a nice fever dream.
Yeah.
Oh, you like
Yeah.
actual fever dreams?
Sometimes, not usually. I don't like fever nightmares, but fever dreams can
I see.
be fine.
I don't have fever dreams.
I don't like the whole being cold and being hot and not ever
Yeah,
being the right temperature or being able to be comfortable underneath a blanket. That part of a fever sucks. The dreaming can go either way.
you're like the mental part.
I like a good dream.
I like the part where I have an excuse to miss work.
Huh. Lost. Wait, you do?
So I take it you don't work remotely?
Well, I'm not going to work with a fever.
What capitalist society do you live in?
Yeah.
I've gotten a
Canadian.
lot of amount of sick days. I don't get sick
That's-
very often.
That's
It's higher
cool.
than like 2?
Huh?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
5, I think.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I was expecting more from you.
Yeah, for Canada.
From Canada, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, don't expect that much from Canada.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There was a part that I marked as being interesting where they were having this like existential conversation where supposedly the human is like questioning existence, but the machine's like not. It's just like
Mhm.
it's not important why we exist, you know?
Yeah.
And the person's
Yeah.
like, but it is. And it's like, why? Why not?
Do you think that a culture suit is desperate to explore those kinds of questions, but maybe a perfectly functional culture suit has that desire repressed a little bit? Maybe it's the damage that's opening this one up to performing
Ah.
out of tolerance?
I think you just don't have to build in an existential ennui. You know, when you're designing
Yeah.
an AI from scratch, you can just not have that.
Do you think they could evolve it though?
Maybe.
Yes.
And to Kip's point, maybe this suit like kind of backwards evolved it. Or-
Yeah.
I think that it is an underexplored concept in sci-fi that your perception of the world and the frustrations you have don't need to map onto alien things at all. You know,
For
these
sure.
can be like completely human concerns. For example, be worried about death. You know, maybe that's
Yep.
in a sci-fi thing. That just doesn't have to be a thing anymore because, you know, it's not necessary or whatever.
Okay. Now here's the tinfoil hat question for this story. Do you think the suit killed its inhabitant?
No.
No.
I think the inhabitant was already dead. And the way that it was speaking to the human and pretending to have that conversation was how it stayed sane, quote unquote,
Okay.
through this experience.
My stance is I think it mercy killed it
Maybe.
Oh.
That
On
could be
landing.
fair.
Oh, on landing.
Because it knew.
on crash landing. When it saw the amount of damage, it made a decision and euthanized.
Okay, I did not think about that route.
I didn't think about that route either.
I could buy it.
Yeah,
He died 34 days ago.
I could definitely buy that.
Oof, that's heavy.
Yep.
I kind of like the standard, like the way the story is framed. Yeah, I like that too, though. I like that in the end, it kind of challenges our conceptions a little bit, or if we were in the 1990s, it would challenge our conceptions around, you know, something of value did end up surviving, and it wasn't the human. It was the suit.
Yeah.
But yes, our culture has sufficiently advanced in science fiction where like stories about like artificial beings having value, those just aren't as compelling anymore. Because I think like pretty much everyone agrees, oh yes, they can.
Yeah.
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 In the science fiction community, yes.
Yes.
True.
That argument's been won.
If you get like a sci-fi person to watch Blade Runner these days, like it's not as impactful to them. It's like, oh yes, yeah, well, yes, replicants have
yeah.
value, absolutely.
Sure. Yeah.
Yep.
I think I'm gonna revise my recommendation. I think that these stories could be useful for like somebody who is interested in creative writing and writing short stories. Especially the scratch and
Wow.
the odd attachment. Those
Okay.
two stories I think would
Sure.
be good pieces to study.
I
Yeah.
can get behind that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would recommend this book also to people who just want to study the history of SF and see some older short stories.
That makes
Though
sense.
I would recommend other things probably first.
Yeah.
Yes. If I'm recommending stuff from the history of sci-fi, I would recommend earlier things.
Yes.
Osmoth.
But I do think that 90s sci-fi had this fun little place, and this is almost early 90s sci-fi. It's a little bit in advance of it.
This is
Yeah.
like a weird transitionary period for sci-fi. Okay, obviously you have people like Le Guin who say that sci-fi is always social criticism, right?
Yeah.
I think that at this area, it like other authors have started to accept her positions more, and modern sci-fi seems to be much more explicitly social critique than exploring the realm of ideas that it used to be in like the early days.
But I would kind of argue that modern sci-fi, a lot of it is just it has a sci-fi setting and the story itself is like any same old adventure story or mystery story.
I disagree
but-
heavily with that.
I don't know. It depends on what it is. Because I just.
The genres of fantasy and sci-fi have blended a lot more with time, I think.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. But I do think it's the case that there are very few, if any, authors like Asimov writing these days.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who would be the closest?
Adrian
Yes.
Tchaikovsky. Yeah.
Don't his stories
I
have
could
characters?
see that.
Tchaikovsky.
Yeah, I could see that.
What are you talking, Ash?
Don't Tchaikovsky's stories have characters in them?
They do have they sometimes. Sometimes.
Okay.
I would argue that the characters are about as light, though not as light as Asimov's.
I see.
And I get some
That was
flack for
good.
that, but
Interesting.
Wow.
but I think he's very much more interested in putting together pieces of the ideas than writing characters.
I see.
Much
Okay.
more interested.
I guess part of the problem is early sci-fi was written in a time where there were huge paradigm shifts in how we understood the world.
Yep.
And that hasn't happened in the past 40, 50 years. I don't think, except on like the cultural side of like social critiques.
The whole information age stuff. Come on.
Yeah.
That I feel is like a social connection. It's not like general relativity and all the weirdness around that, right?
Sure. There's been no new methods of faster than light travel proposed in the last.
Yeah, and no like huge advances in physics. I mean, like there have been advances in physics, but no like huge revolutionary advances in physics. There have been no
We're
like
too busy making new iPhones.
no like world killer weapons that we have to worry about besides the ones that we already have and have had for a while.
Nothing with a strong basis in physics, anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, I think there's a lot more on like the transhumanist side and the human side of sci-fi rather than the cold ideas side.
Sure.
And Banks is like a middle author between those.
I see that. Well, I'm very excited to read more with the minds. So.
Okay. So we should talk about our next book.
Yeah.
If you want more of the minds, there isn't a better book for that than Accession.
Okay,
Absolutely.
am I ready for it? Like,
you're ready for it? It doesn't tie into anything else
Okay.
really, so.
Yep.
I would like that, please.
I think you're ready for it.
Accession.
Ash, what book are you going to push for?
I'm going to push for Accession, of course.
Great, we're all agreed.
The selfish part of me is endlessly yearning to get to use of weapons, but
I'm afraid I'm gonna not like that one.
We're going at Panda pace.
I think coming off Malazan, you'll be in a good position to read it.
Okay, let's do something like fun and more confidently that I will like first.
I don't know if you like it.
Accession.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if you like it. I haven't read it. So if you don't like it, I get to fully blame Kip and Dusty.
Hey, I think you'll like Accession.
Okay.
There we go. See, we have it on the record.
I think you're almost guaranteed to laugh at parts of Accession.
Okay.
The mind parts, really.
I have several things that I underlined from the state of the art that I kind of want to read.
Okay.
Most of them funny.
Wait, Dusty, do you have to go?
I do. You guys can keep going, but yeah, I gotta leave so.
Farewell, Dusty.
Thank you, Dusty.
Bye, Dusty.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
I'll be fast, I promise. I recall that all through that year, you could tell the economists by their distraught look and slightly glazed-looking eyes. You have to be a bit wary of a ship that collects snowflakes.
It's true.
I really like that part. It was just like so unexpected, and it's like that it's a futile hobby, but I guess that's what a lot of hobbies are. It's like you're not doing it for anything other than your enjoyment.
What is the point of penny collection? Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, some people enjoy like collecting the rare and then having that pride.
Yeah, but like just the collecting part, not the reselling, not the markets. Just want to have every penny.
Yeah, that speaks to a drive that I just don't have. There's a naturalistic fallacy in here when Linter is saying something. It's like, maybe they don't need mines, maybe they don't need more and more technology. They might be able to do it by themselves without wars and revolutions even just by understanding by some belief, by something more natural than we can understand. Natural is something they still understand. That's the naturalistic fallacy. Thank you, Linter. Go ahead.
Yeah, Linter really went off the rails of objective science a while ago.
Yeah, and like into like just not great arguments. The Eurocentricity of this was like amazingly apparent when Sma was recounting the authors that she read.
Yeah.
Dostoevsky, Borges, Green, Swift, Lucretius, Kafka, Austen, Grass, Bellow, Joyce, Confucius, the Token Asian, Scott, Mailer, Camus, Hemingway, and Dante.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Some Eurocentrism there that would not be in Sma's or a mind's. A mind would never do that.
I think the pinnacle of the stupid arguments Linter made, they're real because they live the way they have to. We aren't because we live the way we want to. Can't get behind that argument. I think you're allowed to make that argument if you are the starving African child, you know? And they leave behind a large fist-sized diamond in orbit around Neptune. I think it would have been funnier if it was a teapot. There we go. That's all my thoughts for the...
That's all your thoughts. Okay.
That's all my thoughts.
Nice.
I will say that Oxygen Not Included does have a teapot out in space.
Excellent.
So, Lovely book, lovely series, and we will hopefully continue on with Accession next year.
Yeah.
Hopefully early next year, even.
Hopefully
We'll
early
see.
next year. Accession can be a Christmas read. It'll be lovely. I'm always looking for a reason to reread Accession when I go home for Christmas.
Really? Well, that's
It is on my home nightstand right now, just
Oh, wow.
waiting in anticipation for Christmas.
it's like a comfort read.
Sure, we can call it that.
So, would you classify Accession as a Christmas novel? Or even a Christmas movie, because terms don't mean
Oh,
anything.
no. We're not going there.
I would not. No.
Oh, okay. Oh, good to know.
Yeah, we're
Wait,
fine.
this one said snowflakes. Does that mean it is? I'm just kidding.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Snowflakes
no.
are a Christmas thing.
The State of the Art is a
There's
Christmas
usually
novel.
Yeah.
Except if you're in Australia.
I
Yes, true.
celebrated Christmas in South Africa once in December. That was interesting.
I'm sure it snowed at least once in Australia.
In December in Australia?
Not in December, buddy.
A very freak weather event. Wait,
Maybe.
Ice Age. Yeah, there's been an Ice Age in Australia, right?
Okay.
There you go. Christmas novel right there.
I don't think it was called Australia back then.
No, it was probably well, yeah. Maybe. Yeah.
So that has been our episode on the state of the art. You can find us on the Legendarium's Discord. The invite link is on legendarium.com. We're also on Twitter at Green Team Pod and Reddit. You can join us in supporting the Legendarium via Patreon. Shout out to Horizon Brave for starting it all, and Craig for loaning us this quarter of his media empire. Our intro and outro music is Galactic Damages by Jingle Punks. And I've been Kyptan. Thank you for joining me, Panda and Ash.
Yay. And Dusty.
Thank you. Bye. Yes,
and
Dusty.
thank you for joining us, Dusty, far away and long ago. Bye.
Bye.